Welcome to Strange Brew Media Group presents the interviews. I am your host, Jamal Jupitur, and tonight I want to welcome a beautiful soul to the show. Her music resonates with everyone, and her podcast segments are amazing. Show your gratitude and show some love for Moon Chylde. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for that beautiful
Oh,
introduction.
yes, indeed. Yes, glad to have you aboard. I'm glad you
I'm honored,
in
honored to
this interview.
be
Yes, indeed. So for my first question, let the
here.
world know who is Moon Chylde.
Well, let's see. People ask me that a lot, and when I describe myself, I just say I am really a multifaceted creator. I
Okay.
look at me that way
Mhm,
because most people know me as an indie artist,
mhm.
but I'm more than an indie artist. I'm a music producer.
Okay.
I've written and produced and arranged the majority of my own work,
Yeah,
along with some stuff I've done with other people.
it's amazing.
And I'm a podcaster and poet.
Hmm.
Um, I'd like to add very soon an author and
Okay.
professional photographer, which is
Oh
soon
wow.
going to be added to that list.
Yes, you
Um,
go. You do it all. Yeah.
and I'm a music publisher with Under BMI, with Under the
Yes.
Moonlight Music.
That's beautiful. That's
Yeah, so I
nice.
love all things creative. I love to
Hmm.
create.
Yes, indeed. God gives us a many of talents and a many of gifts, and it's all in what we do with them.
It
It's all in
really
how
is.
we
It
use them.
really
You know. But yeah, yes, indeed. But where does your passion for music and writing come from?
That's a good question. Um, my passion for music comes from my surroundings growing up, from both my family and where I grew up.
Okay.
I grew up with a very large family, so I have six brothers
Ooh.
and and five sisters.
Wow.
And yes, the same mom and dad. There's no stepbrother or stepsister.
Yeah, that's good.
Um, but the cool thing is that growing up, everyone had their own favorite genre of music.
Hmm.
Like my father liked country, my mother loved gospel.
Hmm.
I had brothers that loved rock and hard rock, and I had sisters that loved like folk and pop.
Hmm.
And then I grew up in a predominantly Black neighborhood,
Hmm.
and I was one of the few whites that went to an all Black school. So I was heavily influenced with R&B, soul, and neo soul.
Oh yeah.
And those end up being my passions. So I'm kind of infused with it all.
Okay, yeah, that's beautiful.
And um, the writing was really just a gift from God, because it's just been something for as long as I can remember that I was always just able to do.
Hmm.
And I don't take that for granted.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, that's beautiful. Now,
Thank you.
being in Atlanta, there's a melting pot of everything going on, especially when it comes to music and the arts. How were you able to carve out your own sound and your own way and separate yourself from most out there?
Hmm. Um, I think like most people in music, when you first start out, you replicate or emulate artists that you looked up to,
Hmm.
or that you admire. You cling on to something that they sound or look or their style, and that's what you emulate.
Hmm.
But over time, especially as a writer and a producer, once I started writing or trying to write my own music,
Hmm.
it's then when I found my voice and who I was and what fit me, and that came from the stories I wanted to tell. So in
Hmm.
that process is where I figured out who I was as
Oh,
an
wow.
artist.
That's amazing. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, because you definitely have a sound of your own, and
Thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah.
Growing up, I was heavily influenced with Tina Marie and Prince and Sade and Barbara
Hmm.
Streisand. So
I can
those are
see
all
it.
very different artists.
Yeah.
But that's who I emulated for a long time, and so a lot of me comes from that. But
Okay.
you do find yourself when you start writing and producing your own music. You find your own sound,
Yes,
and I think
indeed.
that comes in time. Yeah.
Yeah, true indeed. Explain the typical studio day for you.
Heaven.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
you know, um, you make me smile when you ask that question, because it is my favorite thing in all the world to do is to create. So I love being in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a group of guys that I've worked with for a long time. They're producers here in Atlanta.
Okay.
Robert Williams and Tim Anderson of Tea Time Productions in Decatur, Georgia.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And a day for me is, I usually have spent a lot of time already working on the music that I've written, so I'm familiar with it. I don't like wasting money or time.
Right.
So I don't go in the studio to figure it out. I go simply into the studio to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And so I usually send my music to the producers a few hours before it's time for me to be there, so they have time to download everything.
Okay.
And then when I show up, you know, we get our hugs and catching up with each other out the way.
Mm-hmm.
They lock the door because I like very private settings.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no fans or family or, you know, there's no audience, so to speak. It's very intimate. I like it that way.
Okay.
And then when I walk into the studio, you know, the lights are dimmed, my candle's lit, there's a few shots of brown liquor over there, and we're in there for a good 8 to 10 hours, you know, and then we create.
Creative magic. Yeah. Yes.
Create magic, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's got to be lovely. You know, that's where it all comes out at. That's where you can express yourself most in the studio.
It really is. It really is. And I really like those intimate settings because you really feel free to just be.
Yep.
And we really bounce stuff off of each other. And it's just a wonderful experience. And I never get tired of it.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I know you have done some collabs. Can you talk a bit about them?
Yeah, I've done a lot of collaborations with artists as well as producers.
Okay.
I've worked with Affiliated. He's a Grammy-winning producer out in California, and I was really honored to do 2 songs with him on my second album, It's All About You.
Okay.
And I've worked with indie artist and producer David McLaurin,
All right. Yes.
who was in Texas for a while. I think he's out in Los Angeles now.
Okay.
But we wrote a couple of tunes together, and we actually did a jingle together for She Beverage Company.
Oh.
And I've worked with a very good friend of mine. He's an indie artist. He's a sax player.
Okay.
Orlando Williams. We call him Saxy Orlando Williams.
All right.
And we've done several songs together. And the most recent, we did kind of like a joint release where we both did our own version of the song we both created, The Way You Love Me.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's very popular, and I love, love, love his voice. But I've worked with John Frazier of Kojak.
Okay. Yeah.
And we did a song together called Stay on my Fantasy Suite album. And I've worked with rappers. I've worked with Tizzy Southpaw and Iron and Prizzy on different albums. Wow. And I've done a lot of collaborations with producers, and I've got them written down. I did not want to forget anyone. But I have Affiliated and Albert, Mr. E. Norwood out in Detroit. Of course, Rob and Tim here in Atlanta, and Carl Breeding, and Greg Mullins Sr. in Florida, and Sandy Hot Fudge Wise out in South Carolina. So I've worked with a lot of people, and it's just really been an honor.
Yeah, that's
to
amazing.
just get a sponge in the room with them.
Yes, indeed.
You know?
Yeah, that's amazing. You know,
Yeah.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that. You know, for a lot of those sessions. You know, I'm sure they're very amazing. You know,
they are amazing. They're amazing people, and I'm honored to be in the room with them.
Yes, indeed. Okay. Talk about some of the shows you've done and how being on stage makes you feel.
Being on stage makes me first feel like I want to throw up.
I wasn't expecting that one.
I know, right? And believe it or not, it's really crazy because I have severe stage fright.
Okay.
And it's crazy because people say, you don't look like you have stage fright.
Really don't.
But I do. I'm very, I love the creative process, but when it's time to get out there, it takes a minute and to calm down. But I think once you just feel the vibe of the people, and you get to look out and you see them grooving with you or swaying with you or depending on the song up already on the floor and dancing, it just takes all the nerves away. And it's just a big party. and you feel good. You feel good that you brought joy to someone tonight. And,
Mhm.
you can look around the room and people were having a good time and you did that.
I
So,
think, yeah, I think most people go through that though, because I know Prince was like that, believe it or not. He had some extent of stage fright, but once you up there, you up there, and it's just you got to do it.
you really do. It's like just once the music kicks us and you got a live band, especially, the vibe is just in the room and it bounces from you to them and back to you. And it's just an
Mhm.
amazing experience. Yeah.
Yep, yep. Okay, how would you classify your music? What category would you put yourself in?
Jamal, I hate categories. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
and
you and me
everybody wants
both.
to put us in one.
Yeah.
I'm very eclectic, I think, because I'm so influenced by so many sounds. And if you listen to a lot of my music, I really infuse a lot of sounds. Like I will do, of course, I've done R&B
Mm-hmm.
with a little hip hop thump and some rock infused in there.
Mm-hmm.
I've done songs that sound like pop, but I think I think the bottom line of my sound, it always stems from R&B, smooth jazz.
Okay, yeah, and I hear that a lot in your
Yeah.
music. Yeah, yes, indeed, and it's so smooth how you put it together, though, man. It's
Oh, thank you.
yeah,
Thank you for that.
you indeed. Now you got this podcast going on, and that's amazing.
Thank you.
Explain to the world what that's all about.
It's all about love. That's really all it's about.
Yes, indeed.
It's really crazy because I never thought of doing a podcast before. And a friend of mine reached out to me when the song Screams of Passion released from my Fantasy Suite album
Hmm.
because I talk through the majority of the song.
Yeah, it's
And,
almost poetry, almost like love poetry.
thank you. I like that.
Sounds great.
But when she reached out to me, she was like, "Have you ever thought about doing a podcast? Like, you really have a really good speaking voice or radio voice." And I
Hmm.
never thought about that. And I had no clue what I would even do with that.
Hmm.
So she asked me to think about it. And I did. And I thought, if I did a podcast, I wouldn't want it to be political
Hmm.
or celebrity or gossip or any of that mess that I really don't want to be around. So I thought, everything about me is about love and passion and romance. That's really just who I am
Hmm.
as a whole and as a person. And for these difficult times that we've all been going through and experienced with so much hate for
Yeah.
no reason,
Yes.
I wanted to say if I put a podcast together, I want it to be about love and all things that surround that.
Hmm.
Whether it's healing from pain, letting things go, learning how to love each other, lift each other up.
Hmm.
I really want it to be that. And so first it came out with Love Notes, which I did for a very long time. And then we changed it a little bit to Passion Speaks, both which are supported by Spotify.
Okay. Yeah, that's hot. That's really nice.
Thank
Yes,
you.
indeed. Are there any other ventures that you have in the works other than music?
Yes, I'll speak lightly of them because they are at the beginning stages.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I love, like I said, I love to create. So I'm actually in the very early stages of writing a book, and
Ooh,
I'm
ooh.
excited about that. I don't know how long that process is going to take.
Hmm.
Um, I'm also, mentioned earlier that I'm getting into photography. I've always been on this side of the camera, but I really love to tell stories, and I'm anxious to be on the other side of the camera.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
I have other artists that have reached out that I'd like to do more writing and producing.
Hmm.
So besides having my own new joint come out sometime soon, I would really like to pour what God poured into me from others and
Yeah.
take some of that and pour it into someone else.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. I can't wait to see what I can't wait to see some of those different ventures.
Thank
Can't
you.
wait. Um, what can we look forward to from Moon Chylde in the future?
Hopefully in the future, you will definitely have some new music coming up that we've been working on.
Okay.
And I think this one go around, I'm really looking at going back to my roots of smooth jazz and R&B.
Okay.
I was, really sexy with my last one. This one, I just want to be
Mhm.
really romantic.
Okay, well, yeah, there is a difference. There is a
There is
difference.
a difference. There's very much a difference. And of course, I'm working on the photography thing and of course my book. So these are the ventures. And I would really like to see my name just out there with other artists, promoting them and saying, let's see what we can do with you. I would like that opportunity.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Yeah, it's coming. It's already there. You already doing big things, You're doing a
Thank
lot of
you.
great things. So,
Thank you.
keep that up, definitely. Throughout everything you've done musically, what do you think you've learned from it all?
That's hard. I've learned a lot of lessons, a lot of hard lessons and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of good lessons. But I think the bottom line for me is to first learn who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you know who you are, you know where you want to go with that and what you want to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not pulled around by everyone else's opinions because now you're focused. You
Right.
know who you are, you know what's you and what's not you.
Mm-hmm.
And learn to be brave enough to take the reins, wise enough to at least listen, but smart enough to make your final decision and choice.
Wow.
That's what I've learned.
You hear that, world? That's definitely that's great. Yeah. That's
Thank you.
yeah. What's the best part of it all, though? Meaning the work that you put in, becoming who you are in today's music game. What is, what's the best part? What do you feel that is the reward of it all?
I think the best reward of all of it is, especially in music, is because it's in today's world with digital, social media, all these things, that for everything you create and you put out there, you're leaving a legacy that will outlast you.
Yes.
And so, I will never be forgotten. And it's something I can pass down for my children or grandchildren. Should you miss me, I'm still there. Just put this on and you can hear my voice. You can say, this was my mom, this was my grandmother, this was my friend. That I can play something that, or create something that maybe I was going through.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you know it or not, you know that once it's out in that world, there's someone else that needs it or can relate to it, and
Right.
to be that inspiration.
Yeah.
I don't always have to have the acknowledgement.
Mm-hmm.
Just know that I did this, I put it out there, and I know I'm not the only one that feels this way, this
Right.
romantic or this sexy or this sad.
Right.
And to know that that's forever out there for generations,
Yeah. It's
whoever
many.
wants to turn an ear and listen.
Yeah. It's many people out there like that, and you definitely are touching them, and they are listening. You know.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of it all.
Yeah. If you could say you did something that
Yeah.
you contributed to this, that was what you did. You helped a lot of people, man. You always will be. So you got to look at it like 20 years from now, somebody else will come along and they'll hear it and
Now
you
here
brighten their day. Yeah, definitely. That's really true. You know. Um, so Moon, what are you currently working on right now? What are you working on this minute?
you want to know all my secrets, Jamal. Well, right now I actually am in the middle of writing my music. I don't know if I want to do another album. I've never done an EP. I've done singles and I do albums. And I'm one of those old school, so I usually write albums.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
I am in the middle of writing that. We hope to get into the studio soon to record. And as often as possible, I'm working on my book. And, whenever the spirit hits, my podcast has a message.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes indeed. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. So let the world know where they can hear your music, the podcast, how they can contact you for those that don't
Yeah,
know.
the music and the podcast you can hear on Spotify and Apple Music.
Okay.
Um, a lot of the music is on other things like Napster. YouTube is a lot of it stuff out there with me on it. But
Mhm.
I would say Apple and Spotify are the main thing. Pandora, you'll have some of my music.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, when my third season for Moonlight Media starts back up, you will definitely have a spot on there. You always got a
Oh,
spot.
thank you. I'm honored. Thank you so much for just thinking of
Yes,
me.
indeed. This has been a great interview. Wow, we're at the end already. Oh man.
Already?
Yes.
We must do this again, Jamal.
Oh, we will. We definitely will. This concludes my interview with the wonderful, the amazing Moon Chylde, a wonderful singer, songwriter, and entertainer. Y'all check her music out and her podcast out on those platforms. It will be well worth your while, I'm telling you. Thanks so much for doing this interview, Moon. You are very much appreciated.
Thank you. You are greatly appreciated. Thanks for having me.
Yes, indeed.
Mwah.
We'll talk soon. Okay,
We'll
see
talk
you
soon.
later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, everyone, this concludes our interview with the beautiful Moon Chylde. It's been a wonderful one. Feel free to join us next week as we interview more entertainers and great, brilliant artists. Feel free to check us out and subscribe to all the platforms that you see once the show fully ends. I am Jamal Jupitur, and until next time.